Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. It's lovely to see you all. I wasn't sure who was coming. I wasn't sure if anyone was coming, so I'm delighted to see so many people here. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so how I wanted to start today, if none of you mind, is for us to just take a moment and drop into our hearts and connect to one another so that we are just connected and integrated, and that the whole experience is coming from our hearts rather than our head brains. So if you'd like to just close your eyes for a moment, and I will too, and drop your awareness into your heart or your heart center, just feeling your consciousness kind of dropping down into the body. And now allowing yourself to begin to become aware of the presence of everyone else in this room, the Zoom room. So just feeling your way and feeling into the hearts and the presence of everyone here. Feeling yourselves held by me and held by one another. And holding this presence, coming back, opening your eyes so that we can begin our Q&A session. That was powerful. I already feel like I'm in a slightly altered state, so I hope I can answer some questions. Okay, so please do fire away. I'm really happy to answer questions on anything. If you don't feel like speaking out loud, then you can send a question into the chat. And if you do have a question, could you there's a raise your hand button, or actually just give me a wave and I'll scroll through everybody and then I'll call your name. Erica, first off the mark. Hello.
Hi, I feel like I have a burning question. And I hope you can hear me. I'm in a cafe. So
I can
I'm
hear
so
you.
sorry. Okay, great. So my question is about my meditation, and I wanted to speak to you and to seek guidance on this. So typically I've meditated for several years now, and I connect with Mother Earth. I ground myself, and I have received messages and guidance, I guess from a higher self or maybe from source. I'm not sure. But lately, I've noticed entities, like stellar entities, that have been connecting with me. And it's only happened once or twice. That's never happened before. And I guess my question is, I know I'm a sovereign being, but how can I make sure that I'm coming from a place of power or sovereign? I don't know how to, this is new for me. So I just, I want to do it in a safe way, I guess, because I think that many entities have their own agenda, which probably are really good, but yeah, and should I continue doing that? It just started happening, so I'm not sure how to explore that in a way that is serving me and making sure it's safe. I think that's my question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so it certainly shows that your meditation practice is advancing, and you seem to be accessing other dimensions, which is fantastic. But yes, you're completely right. And I've even done a video on this before. So everyone and everything across all dimensions has their own agenda. And that's because everyone and everything across all dimensions, including us, obviously, are individuated aspects of source consciousness. So whilst I would say, you could say things like angels, and you're calling them, did you say stellar entities? Is that what you're calling them? Hello?
Yes, that's what
Yes, okay,
yes, that's what
sorry.
I'm calling.
Is that because they feel like they're coming from higher dimensions than the third, fourth, or fifth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I asked
Yeah.
I asked them, well, who are you? So I don't know, maybe I called them into my space without knowing. Like what I typically do is I go to a beautiful mountain or a stream or a river or something. But this time I put myself like in a black box with a white table. I don't know why I did that. And I was like, well, let's see who shows up.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So, all right. That's interesting. You put yourself in a black box with a white table. I'll come back to that in a moment. So, if you want to remain sovereign, it would be prudent. Oh, sorry, let me just finish the thread of what I was going to say. So even entities that are in higher dimensions will have their own agenda. And whilst their agendas may not be ego based in the same way that ours are, so we're kind of egoically obsessed with survival and control and things like that. They still are individuated aspects of the source. So they'll have their own agenda. And sometimes the agenda, it can be to, like Luciferian beings, for example, they have an agenda to pull humans into the light because they're light beings. And they assume that humans want to go into the light and abdicate their human experience because to them, the human experience is full of suffering. And they're kind of trying to help, and they are trying to help. But that's their agenda, is to help, if you like, at all costs. Whereas the human agenda, or the road of the human being, is to stay in the body whilst, or this is my idea of what our agenda or what our road is to stay in the body and be fully materialized whilst being cosmic simultaneously, and to hold that in the body. And they don't understand why we would want to be in this body, because we can die and we can suffer and all of those things. So sorry, I just bashed my computer. So they don't have ego in the same way, but they're focused on what makes them feel good, just as we are. And what you did when you said, okay, let's see who shows up, is you essentially opened your biofield to anything that wanted to come in and that was around in that moment. What I probably would have done instead is I would have placed myself in, if I wasn't sure who might show up, I would have placed myself in an energetic octahedron. So that's two four-sided pyramids stuck together. This is a fantastic technique that I originally found through a man called Jim Self. I've adapted it and changed it, bits of it. But essentially, you put yourself in an energetic octahedron, and it's a geometry of pure presence that brings you into absolute sovereignty, because the presence immediately allows you to let go of the past and the future, so that you can feel entirely yourself within the present moment. And that's a direct route into sovereignty. And I probably would have said, instead of let's see who comes, I would have been very specific and careful with my words. So I would have said something like, I'm open to receiving information from other beings as long as it's in my highest good, or some words to that effect. And the other thing that you did, and I'm not saying you've done anything wrong, these are just offerings for you, is you placed yourself in a black box. Now, geometry is really interesting, and I'm by no means an expert on sacred geometry, but the black box, the shape of a cube, is very much associated with Metatron and a third dimensional existence. And so I'm quite careful with what geometry that I work with, because it's my understanding, as far as I've explored in my own evolution, that I would not want to give any of my power to Metatron, because Metatron, as far as I see it, is very much rooted in the satanic. And what I mean by satanic is not the devil, I mean materialism. But any entities that connected to the satanic material agenda are going to have an agenda which is to do with things like abdicating your sovereignty, being mind controlled, being obsessed by the material. And so often beings that are rooted in that dimensional quality are tricksters and will try and make you think that you're receiving information from the light when they're actually trying to pull you more into the material realm. So I think what you need to do here is to be more mindful of your words. You're already mindful because you've already understood that everything has its own agenda. To be mindful of your words, to state that nothing may enter your biofield. And you can use statements like, I remove consent for anything to enter my biofield on any level of reality across all time space continuums, unless it is for my highest evolution. You need to, I'm giving you these words, and I haven't pulled them off the top of my head. I use these words, but what you need to do is you need to make your own words that resonate with you, because that will also add to the sovereignty aspect of what you're doing. So it's actually wonderful to receive higher information from beings. I don't really channel beings. I channel what I think is higher information coming through me as source consciousness, and I find that very helpful.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you need to look at, potentially looking at placing yourself in a sacred geometry and being mindful of your words and setting up yourself, the architecture of yourself carefully before you do an exploration. And also, I would like to make a note. If one is obsessed, I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying this is a general note. If one is obsessed with protection rather than sovereignty, you open the floor or the arena of your experience for attack.
Yes.
So that's also something to be kind of mindful of, because this has been come across my path a lot, actually. People have been saying, oh, should I put up protection here? Maybe I should do this protection.
Yeah.
I'm like, be mindful, because when you set up protection, you're saying that attack is out there.
Exactly.
And
that's why I intuited.
Yeah.
sorry, I intuitively felt that sovereignty is really the key.
You really,
And
yes, you really have it there. And there are some amazing beings out there. I mean, look at Bashar,
yeah,
and Tom Kenyon and the Hathors. There's a lot of amazing beings out there that want to help. So what I would also do is if you do tap into a kind of Q&A session with a being, I would ask a lot of questions and I would feel into how the response makes you feel,
yeah,
because
okay,
that's going to be your biggest indicator. If you feel joy and love in the true sense, rather than, um, let's say, I don't know if these were, rather than kind of that you're being talked into something, or even relief and safety, then you know that you're on the right road. If they make you feel good, if you're not tired
hmm,
after a session, if they don't demand anything from you. So just as you would anyone who might be wanting to control you, you need to be kind of mindful. And the best way to be mindful and the best way to be sovereign is know thyself.
right,
And so you're feeling into the responses. And when you're not working with higher entities, you're constantly checking in. Who are you? What is a program? How do you truly feel about something? And the more you know yourself, the more you'll be able to connect with higher entities. And also in your 3D reality, in your day-to-day relationships, yes, I would like to hang out with this person. No, I definitely don't
no,
hang out with that person.
right,
So it's exactly the same thing. You're making a friendship group in another dimension. And I think that's, that can be wonderful and it can be awful, and and over to you and how you feel. So great question. Has that
thank
answered it?
you. Yes, Sarita, thank you. And one of the main things that has attracted me to you, like I really like your approach to this because I'm not too sure. I mean, I love Bashar and all that, but I really like that connection to source. And for me, it just feels, I don't know, like more direct or something. So, just one thing. So the statement that I will develop, this will be recorded, right? So I'll be able to go back
Yes.
and hear what you said about the affirmation. Okay. Because I was using before my meditation, I started using a lot of like grounding myself to the earth, to the sun. Another technique was um, bringing in the four winds of north, south, east, west. I was also calling my higher self and my ancestors. And I was trying to do all these things so that I would be like safe. But this is very helpful. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Brilliant. Does anyone else have another question?
Hi,
Oh, hello. I
um,
can't see you, but I can hear you.
I'm Lindy. Can you see me now? I
Um,
just wanted
I can't, but don't worry, it's fine. There's a lot of people here, so I think I'll be scrolling through forever.
okay, no, it's fine then. I just wanted to find out, like, how do you actually know that you actually now tapping into the unknown, like the void, that you've actually entered it? Some maybe, um, like if you're getting into the meditation, like for example, there's your enter the void meditation, which I really love. And I do feel like, it does sort of get me in good vibes and stuff. But like, how do I know that I'm actually in the void?
Okay, so well, I can tell you how I feel when I'm in the void. How are you feeling when you believe you've got into that space?
So for me, like when I feel like I don't sense my like where I'm sort of like don't feel my body and I'm not into my head. Yeah, that's how I sort of think I'm in it. But it's like it doesn't last too long because I think maybe I'm still not yet experienced in it. It's like just those few moments it happens and then Like I remember there was a time where sometimes like my body just relaxed. I just sort of, I even had like sort of like a pain, and then it like went away because I was so relaxed in the body and out of the head. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It sounds like you've got there. So for me, it feels like absolute expansiveness. I feel completely omnipresent. All thoughts disappear. Or if I do see thoughts, they're not, I can see them simultaneously to being in that omnipresent space. I also, I see a lot of darkness, but I see a lot of light simultaneously. So it's like the darkness is full of light. It's both all at once. And I do, as Dr. Joe says it, I do feel like I'm no one in no thing, in no space, in no time. That's a really clever way that he's described it.
Okay.
And
So I guess I'm still in the early stages of it. I think I haven't really tapped into the depths of, yeah, but we'll get there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's normal. It's like we meditate, for weeks
Okay.
and weeks and months, then we get 1 second where we feel source consciousness and we're like, woo! And then that makes you meditate for another, 10 months. But
Okay.
but obviously it does get easier and easier. So for me now, I can close my eyes and very quickly I can get into that space. And depending what's going on in my
Mm,
life, it's whether I'm sort of flitting in and out of it or I can maintain it. So if I can maintain being in the void for 20 minutes or half an hour, to me that's an enormous achievement.
mm,
And I don't even know if it's half an hour, 20 minutes, because I'm in the void. It's only when I come back and
yeah.
check. But yeah, so I think if you can get into it for one moment, you're there. And I always say this as well, especially to the people that I'm teaching to be healers now, is preparation is everything. And if you can connect to source consciousness for one moment, let's say you're doing a healing meditation and you connect to source consciousness for one moment, or you've got your hands on someone and you're healing them. If you get that one
Mm.
moment where you feel that connection of source coming through, in a way, the job is done
Oh,
because
wow.
there is only the one moment. It's the
Mm,
fact that you come back out of the void and you then choose to take your whole history and bring it into your next now moment that stops the healing or the oneness or the love from being fully present in the next now moment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
okay. Yeah. It's like you're saying bringing the past back into that
Yes.
moment.
So what happens is you get
Okay.
that moment in the void and you suddenly go, wow, I'm everything. Or you get that moment where you feel like your pain went, you're healed. Okay. But let's
Mm,
say you were doing it
mm,
and you were healed in the moment. Now, what most people
mm,
do, which is clearly what's happening to you and what most people do, is they come back from the moment into their bodies, their
mm,
ego immediately takes over and they create their next now moment from everything that the ego remembers. Remember that the ego is your survival.
mm,
So it pulls all your past experiences and
mm,
moments into the next now moment, saying, I must remember all of these or I'm going to die. And so you immediately feel your pain again because
mm,
it's brought it all back in. So the thing is to that's why if you can get a few now moments in the void, you can hold the feeling or the memory of it longer, and then you can choose to not take your limitations with you into the next moments.
mm,
And that's why
mm,
that 1 second of being in the void just stimulates us to keep meditating, keep trying, keep doing the inner work, because it just feels so amazing because it's the truth of who you
mm,
are. That's why it feels so good.
mm. Thanks. Thanks for answering.
Yeah, good, great question. Thank you. Anyone else? Nanu, can you unmute? I can't see.
Yes. Hi,
Oh, there you are.
Sarita. Thank you so much for doing this. Hey, thank you for doing this for all of us. So, as you were talking about meditating and all that, is there like a secret technique you have to not get monkey mind and to get faster into the 0 point field? Like a magic wand type technique.
Is there a magic wand? Yeah, there we go.
Like,
Ding.
yeah.
For me, I think for me there hasn't been a magic wand. For me, it's that I made a decision because I've always believed in magic, and because I've always understood and felt that we were more energy than matter, and that there was something beyond myself. For me, it's just doing something every day for myself in terms of having a spiritual practice. That has been the magic wand. And what happens, it's like I hold myself to account to keep doing this no matter what, no matter how awful things become, or how challenging they are, or how tired I am, or how great life is. I actually hold myself to account to do a spiritual practice every day. And what happens is that we've got these brains, and in this realm we've kind of given our power away to the ego. That's how we've been indoctrinated. And when we recall that back into the heart, it's easier and easier to feel our way into source consciousness. So what happens when you set up a daily practice is you rewire yourself to feel more easily. And remember, a spiritual practice is about really unnumbing ourselves from the indoctrination of this idea of survival and competitiveness, and that we're separate from everyone. And when you step into meditation and when you do your inner work consistently, what you're actually doing is you're reminding yourself, you're remembering that you are a multi-sensory being. So you're learning to feel more and more the truth of who you are. And so you're expanding your perception, because the minute you start expanding your perception, what happens the minute you start meditating and you start feeling more, what happens is the ego closes down, and the ego also constricts your biofield. That's the electromagnetic field around your body. And you'll know this because whenever you see people who are ill or scared, they tend to be very self-obsessed. They're very self-obsessed because they're trying to survive the next moment. And when you see people who are heart-centered, they're more open and expanded. And that's because they've taught themselves to feel and feel and feel. And they start to feel not just with the 5 senses, but with the 6th sense, with the 7th sense. And what I'm feeling into now which is available to us, is the 8th sense. But there are more senses. I know there are more senses out there, and there are other people that referred to them. I fell into 8 senses, although I think 9th is coming, but I can't speak about that yet because it hasn't quite landed in me. But so when the magic wand really is to choose to love yourself enough that no matter what, you'll step into spiritual practice every single day, as much as you can, until your life becomes the expanded awareness that you are a spiritual being. And when you know yourself as a spiritual being as well as a physical being, you'll have more access to, you close your eyes and you're there. Mm. So I think because a lot of people, they do their meditation and then they come out and then they run around like lunatics, getting all stressed and hectic again. The end game really is to be a living meditation. And obviously that's not easy in the beginning. And the other thing that happens when you have a practice is that you have these experiences, you go up and up and up and you're like, oh wow, this is amazing. And then you suddenly plateau for ages. You're just like, oh, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. And actually you've got somewhere already. It's just, you don't go backwards. This is something that a lot of people don't seem to understand. When you're in a plateau, it feels like you've gone backwards, but you haven't. You're just not continually rising. And if you've been in a plateau for a while, it's actually a really great thing, because any moment you're about to spike into an amazing set of experiences. So, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there is a magic wand, and some people have had magic wands. You know, they've had near-death experiences, or you know, they've gone into the void so deeply that when they've come back, they're changed forever. Every now moment is now a different experience. And obviously you had people who have we've had ascended masters on the planet, you know. So there are people who've managed to have the magic wands, but I think for most of us it's a climbing a steady ladder, essentially. And knowing that it is a ladder and that it is getting you somewhere. And also typically your question in a way is ego orientated, because the ego wants a result, but the spiritual experience is enjoying the journey.
Yeah, I was really exexaggerating and being
yes,
funny.
no, I understand that, and I'm just saying that because we're in a Q&A.
Yeah. No, and it's true. It's true.
Yeah,
it is ego. Because usually I do have a daily practice. I used to do 2 hours. I'm down to a half hour because there were a lot of like side effects to meditating too much. So I do have to deal with the human condition and the human body and being on this planet. But it's more like I do it first thing in the morning when I wake up. And so then it's like the beginning is more of like, like what I need to do today. It's like, and I usually do it before I have coffee, because once you have caffeine, then it's a different kind of thing. It's harder to kind of get in, but it's like usually like ding, 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 like, you're sidetracked by what the day ahead is. And eventually I go, but, it just seems like too much of that, human monkey brain.
So what I would suggest that you could do also is I do tend to meditate during the day, but I do most of my inner work at night. So I actually don't recommend this, but I do it sitting up in bed, because I know I'm not going to fall asleep because I'm a very practiced meditator. But what I would recommend for most people is to have a chair next to your bed. And what I do is, when everybody's quiet, the house is asleep, and I'm the last person awake, I then, because my fight and flight and being my children are adults now, but having been a mother, I'm like always the last one to go to sleep. So that keeps me up to the last person in the house. And then what I do is I review my day, and I go into my body and I feel, I go over my triggers and I heal things then inside myself. I also heal other people if they've requested it in bits and pieces. And then what I do is, that's when I practice going in the void, because your pineal gland is already beginning to secrete the DMT because of the darkness, because your body's being flooded with melatonin. And so you're already getting into the dream state, if you like. So if you've got half an hour at the end of the day, that's an excellent time to start practicing that. And that's, I don't have that problem anymore, but that's an easier way to go out into source consciousness, because the chemicals in your body and your brain, and it's the end of your day, you've got nothing to do, will take you there. But I found that it's easier to do that when I've reviewed my day, dealt with my triggers, and done whatever inner work that I feel like I need to do. And then it's like my treat. I go into the void, and then when I'm finished, I go to sleep. So that may help you too.
That's a great thing, and I agree with you with like the ability to disconnect and get in faster, but that has disrupted my night. When I meditate at night, I get like insomnia like crazy. It's like, you know, like it brings me down, but then like in the middle of the night, I'm just activated. So if I had a way of staying awake when I meditate at night, that would be my preference, but it's just a bit challenging.
Yeah, so what you could do is you could practice going in the void at night, and then you could imprint your energy centers with peaceful sleep.
How would you do that?
Well, what I would do is I would feel into each of my energy centers and send an instruction to sleep peacefully. So I might, for example, put a symbol in my energy centers, or write sleep peacefully, or bring up the feeling of peaceful sleep and pour it into my energy centers and feel it filling the centers.
That's awesome. So you send it ahead. You send the information ahead. So
yeah, finish my meditation and then end it like that. You'll probably be like sleepy before you've got to the eighth center.
Awesome.
The other thing you could do is do that pouring into the energy centers from the eighth down, not the first up. Because when you climb the ladder, you're going to make yourself high. And when you meditate using the ladder downwards, you're going to ground yourself.
Okay. And you ground before meditation, obviously, right?
Not necessarily. It depends what I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you much.
Thank you. Great questions. Cameron.
Hello.
Hello.
So I had one question, but now I have about 6 others. So I just need to figure out which one to ask.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I want to tag on to what you just said about filling the energy center. So I'll start there. And so I've done a couple of practices where you take us through that. And the instruction is to put a symbol into each energy center. When I do that, I find I get different symbols for each one. And I'm wondering, all right, is that the idea? It's never consistent.
Yeah. Okay. So but you're saying that before you do that, you're holding a specific intention.
A specific intention, yes.
And then you receive 8 different symbols.
Yeah. When I get to each one, there's something else, some other shape.
That's fantastic. So I would say that's a wonderful thing, because what's happening, every energy center, if you like, is an energetic brain that is controlling the matter of your body. It's instructing your body. So different energy centers do different parts of the body, and they do different parts of your energy field, and they're all interconnected. So we can't really expect all of the energy centers to work in exactly the same way. They're all going to have different needs and wants, just like they have different colors, or they have different textures or vibrations. So I think that's an absolutely brilliant way to work, because if you're in a deeply meditative state, you should be receiving your information in the next now moment. So that's going to be a much more powerful way to inform your body of an instruction. If, however, you want to use the same symbol, you would decide in advance what that symbol is going to be, and then you need to use your willpower and your absolute focus more than your intuition to hold the same symbol in every energy center. And there's nothing wrong with either of those techniques. It's what works for you and what you choose to do and what the results are.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I often find when I go into them, they automatically spin in the lemniscatic form.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It just happens.
Oh, the symbols or the energy centers, or both?
The energy center.
Oh, okay. From
Yeah,
front to back.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. The other question was, you had spoken about, and it was when you're speaking to the person before, when we go into the void and we heal a pain, and then we come out and we bring our history with us, and the pain comes back. So last night I had the experience. I usually do qigong for about 20 or 30 minutes before I meditate. And I've been working at healing a pain in my left foot. And last night, after the meditation, I walked freely and there was no pain. And I said to my husband, wow, this is amazing. And I explained to him what happened. And then 2 hours later, the pain was back. So, help.
There's a couple of things you could do here. One is hold the new information that you don't have pain within you while it kind of fertilizes inside you. Okay. Because sometimes, and I say this when I'm doing ceremony, if you do a ceremony where you're miraculously healed or something extraordinary happens to you, and you then go and tell everyone about the ceremony, you kind of dilute the energy and the information. It kind of leaks out of you in a way. So there is this thing when you're, if you like, birthing something new or something new is integrating within you, kind of hold it within you while it's still new and fragile, you know, hold it a bit within you, just keep it to yourself. And once it's established, then perhaps tell other people. So it may be that it just kind of leaked out, because the thing is, if you share your experience with your partner or anyone else, they have their own ideas about your experience and about meditation and about healing. And all of our biofields are interconnected. You know, we're all entangled with one another. Now, your biofield with your partner is going to be very entangled. Obviously, he wants your best, I'm assuming, he wants your best interest at heart. He doesn't want you to be in pain, but he may have unconscious or detrimental ideas about spirituality or meditation. You know, I don't know, everyone thinks in different ways. So those may unconsciously be acting upon your unconscious ideas. Wow, this feeling feels amazing. I hope it's going to last. Or whatever you're unconsciously holding, or even consciously holding, you might be going, this is amazing. I hope it lasts, you know. So what may be happening is his energetic perspective may be working on yours. So that's another thing I would say to be mindful of. And then also I would give yourself a pat on the back. You know, for 2 hours, you managed not to bring in your habituated past into your next now moment. So you go, wow, if I did it for 2 hours, I can do it for 3. And then you go again. Rather than say, you know, that didn't work. I mean, I think people find it very hard to grasp that the entire universe of your reality is created in every now moment. It is just simply not linear. And we cannot seem, I mean, it's hard to get our heads around this one. So I've explained this a few times, but, you know, everything that you're seeing is being created in every next now moment. It's not that your next word is added on to your last word. It's that it's a completely new word and experience. It's not that outside the door of this room is my hallway. It's the void outside of here. But what's happened is my biofield, everything's in my biofield. So I believe that I'm walking to the doorway and I open the door and there's a hallway there. There isn't. My biofield is building the hallway in every now moment as I walk through it into the next room. And the only reason that my partner and I are seeing the same hallway is because our biofields are communicating with one another and there's a resonant match there. I actually have no idea if he's seeing the same thing that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just what happened is that after 2 hours you kind of fell into the old way of thinking, because pain is a funny thing as well. You can have a pain for 5 years and when it's gone you're like in awe for about 12 hours or a day, and then you forget you ever had it. Now why do we do that? Because you're a completely new person in every now moment. That's why we can look in the mirror one day and we go, oh my God, I look really fat and old. And the next day we go, wow, I look really young and cool. Or this outfit looks great one day and the next day it doesn't. You're a completely different person in the next now moment. That's why that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's about being able to consciously choose every now moment. And I think you'll get there with that, because 2 hours is pretty good going.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who else is waving at me? I've got a message saying 2 others have raised their hands, but it doesn't say who. Okay, I'm going to scroll through and see if I can see any hands raised. Give me a moment. Okay, Lindy.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry.
Oh, you've muted your. No, that's right. Oh, you muted yourself again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. It's a delayed reaction. Okay. Hi, it's me again. I just wanted to find out, you spoke a bit about the healing. I don't want it, maybe the question to drag on too much. Maybe if you do have even another video on your thing, can go. But I just recently joined a coherence healing group, like a Joe Dispenza.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know, like, what are the top things, or maybe even top 2, so that you are, connecting in the field as advice or tip for me as somebody who's joining the group. Yeah.
To be healed or to heal?
So it's to be a healer. Yes, I also want to be healed, but I think that's fine. But to be a healer, like just getting into that energy. Yeah.
Well, actually, it's probably the same answer for both. I would say the top thing is to, the top 2 things. The first one is to get into the heart space, because the heart space cannot lie. The ego will tell you it's not possible, and the heart will tell you that everything is possible.
Wow.
So I think that's the most important thing, whether you're receiving healing or to being healed. And I know someone who's running a very successful coherence group, actually, and she makes sure that everybody is really in their heart spaces before they begin. And it's the same for manifesting. It's the same for all of it. Once we're in the heart, the truth is flowing. And also when you're in your heart space, the electromagnetic field around your body expands. So you've expanded your perception. You're able to access your more multidimensional qualities, your multisensory qualities. You're able to feel your own power because your power has expanded. Remember, the heart is emitting electromagnetic energy all of the time. And the way we manifest is we emit an electrical signal with our desire, and then we magnetize the result back. So if you can open your biofield, you've got more access. And the other thing I would say, if you were healing, is to feel into the entanglement or the coherence of the group that you're healing with, because that's going to or give you the perception that you're multiplying your power. It's going to give you access to how much power there is in the room, let's say. So I would say those are the top two things to be mindful of.
Okay. No, thank you. So the second one, you said it was feeling into the coherence of the group, right? Connecting
to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Connecting to everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nicole.
Hello. Thank you so much for hosting this. So one of the questions that I have a ton, but one of the questions that comes up for me was you had mentioned that your practice at the end of the day is to feeling into your body and your triggers and healing those. So that is like for me, it feels like a lovely cleanup process for the day. And then also, if you could elaborate on that, and then also, or if you have videos, I'm fine for that. And also, what do you do about large triggers that maybe don't need just a quick cleanup?
Yeah, so it's not, I have to tell you, it's not always a quick cleanup at the end of the
day. Ooh, damn.
And sometimes if I wake up in the night and I find myself worrying, I will sit up and I will go into the trigger. And that's actually when I have some amazing experiences in the middle of the night, because you're right in there, you're in the dark, so I'll give you a quick outline of my process. So what I do with a trigger, and if I've had a big trigger, I will try and get to it before the end of the day, if I can. If there's anywhere I can go and get to, I will. Especially if I'm a family environment and I'm so activated that I'm liable to make things worse. And if it's been a big trigger, I probably have made it already worse, like by shouting or crying or reacting or whatever, we all do. So if I can, I will, because I'm in a family, we can all escalate each other with our triggers. That's the beauty of a family, isn't it? That's why it's so helpful. So what I do is I'll if I've had a trigger, I will bring up the incident in my mind. That's the first thing I will do. I will then, until I'm seeing it and feeling the emotions around it, I will then drop into my body and try and find the feeling, the emotion in my body. So let's say it's your stomach and it's going, so I'll go into my stomach and I'll just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that area, sitting with it more and more, with as much presence as I can without trying to fix or change it. I am merely witnessing myself. And when I do that, I'll get through the first thing and and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to feel what's there. So I'll go in and I'll go, okay, this is anger. And I'll just sit with the anger and I'm just trying to go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. That's the only thing I'm trying to do is go deeper. And as I go deeper, I'll then find it's fear, and then maybe I'll go deeper, and then I'll find it's sadness or something. And you'll hit the core emotion at some point, and you'll know it's the core emotion because it'll just be the one, So, and then all I try and do generally is I try and sit with that core emotion as long as I can, holding myself in it. I'm not even trying to hold myself, but that's what I'm doing. I'm in the absolute act of presence with myself. And the thing about presence is the act of presence is healing. That's what it does. It just heals everything, because when you're present with yourself, you're in wholeness. And all triggers are the feeling that you are in separation from something. It's either going to be a loved one, a situation,
Wow.
It's a thing of lack or whatever it is, but really it's separation with yourself, because you won't sit with the uncomfortable feeling. So the minute that you sit with the feeling, it just kind of dissipates. And let me tell you, Nicole, sometimes I've had to sit with a feeling for 2 hours. However, even if you can sit with a feeling for 5 minutes, because that's all you've got time to do, and you do that every night, will be helpful. If any of you would like a free video that can also help you to unravel your own trauma, I created a process which is for free on my website. I think it's also on YouTube somewhere, and it's called Hand Light Pathways. Okay. And it takes about half an hour to learn the process, but that's an extraordinary process for unraveling trauma. And it's something that you can do 5 or 10 minutes or half an hour a night, and you can just carry on where you left off from the night before. So if you've got a family, or you're busy, or you're exhausted, then you can just do that, and you just do whatever you can. Even 1 minute is better than no minutes, isn't it? So that's something that may help you.
Great, thank you. What do you do when the mind might pop in that feeling in deeper and deeper process?
It does. And I try and notice that the mind has popped in, and I try not to go down the rabbit hole of that. I just go, oh, all of these thoughts have arrived, and I try and just drop myself back in. And in the beginning, it's like ping pong.
Okay.
And then you get better and better at it, like you get better and better at meditating or anything, playing the piano, anything. It's practice.
Okay. And you can feel in your body that what the emotion is, like your brain's not telling you. Okay.
Sometimes you have to feel it for a while, and you go, what is this? I mean, obviously you're observing yourself, but what's happening now is the mind is working for the body. It's not the mind running the body. That's the difference. Because if you've been triggered, the ego's going, wow, I need to be right. I need to be heard. This is not good. It's doing all of its weird stuff. But when you're in the body and you're feeling, you're feeling something, the mind might say, this is a bit like anger. Thanks very much, mind. It's helping you. We need our minds. We can't let go of our minds. Otherwise, we won't be able to survive in this realm, because we would cross a road right in front of a car.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Violet.
Hello, beautiful Sarita. Thank you for choosing me. I was actually not going to ask this, but the opening question by Erica made me feel like, okay, I need to bring this up. I have been working steadfastly on holistically healing chronic lethargy that started in childhood, and best I can tell, it's from heavy metal and chemical toxicity exposure since childhood. And things that are supposed to help, herbs, nutraceuticals, eating well, energy work, all of the things spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically that are designed to improve my situation have not been effective. In my journey, I've learned to muscle test with great accuracy. And in my last relationship with a holistic, intuitive herbalist practitioner who also was a master muscle tester, my appointments for months over Zoom kept resulting in us understanding that the lethargy was not of me, was not mine. And it just really took me like by surprise. And so that became a new set of questions. Is this mine? I loved your meditation on sovereignty in the context of the powers that be, but I've also realized that it applied to my situation, because when I muscle test to make progress and get answers and recover, I'm not in my body. My spirit keeps leaving and it's getting pushed out. So I have a few questions about that, but I'd like you to maybe cover, obviously coming from intuition. I don't even know if the right question to ask is why this happens. I've been told, and I'm not sure if it's illusionary, that can happen a lot to light workers.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to subscribe to this path.
Yeah,
I don't want to
that's
subscribe to
fine.
that.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few suggestions that I have. If you're disassociating consistently, there could be a number of things going on. You may be vulnerable to possessional energies. So you may have other and I'm really not trying to scare you. This is very, very normal. Okay.
You're not scaring me. I'm open. Go for it.
So having possessions is very common. And one of the symptoms of having possessions is exhaustion. So I think that you need to find a shamanic practitioner, and you can come and find me if you want, that can assist you with depossession. And generally, depossession is caused by trauma, because what trauma does, and this may be trauma in your and everyone's traumatized to some degree or other. In a way, this is what we're kind of healing on this planet is the collective trauma, because somehow our beautiful light souls, couldn't handle this density, and there's a million reasons why we're dealing with trauma, but it comes up a lot. So when you're traumatized, either as a child or in this lifetime or in past lifetimes, what happens is it can cause rifts or holes or weaknesses in your biofield. Now, trauma also causes soul loss. So when you're traumatized, you need to think of your body as like a cup. It's a vessel that holds your soul, or you could call it your energy body, or, the essence of who you are. It's a cup. Your body is a cup, and this is the vessel. And when you're traumatized, pieces of your soul or pieces of your energy leave because they don't want to stay in the pain. And you may have taught yourself to disassociate so that you could cope with this realm. And so it may just be habituated for you. So I would look at, so when you disassociate, or even if you don't fully disassociate, but a piece of your soul leaves, or you've experienced a few soul losses, let's say, what that does is it leaves gaps in the body and in the body vessel, and nature abhors a vacuum. And so if you've got a space in your body, you're basically opening the window for something to come in and fill the space. Now, there are a lot of different things on this planet, and there are a lot of different things on this planet. I'm not going to go into all of them, but I'll go into one of them. There are a lot of people who have died and their souls have not moved on. And there are a plethora of reasons why people don't go on to where they should go next. They get stuck on the earthly plane, okay? But if they're stuck on the earthly plane, they're naturally going to be predisposed to be in a body, because that's what they know. So if one passes you and you are holding a resonant frequency match to that person, so let's say your trauma, I'm just making this up, was you were abandoned by a parent in childhood, boom, the piece of your soul leaves. And then there's somebody who has a car crash and they die, but none of their family members who are in the car die, they suddenly feel abandoned from them. Now they've got a resonant frequency match to you, and you happen to pass them or you're near them, and there's a vacuum in you, voomph, in they go. Or they experience when they were young a similar trauma to you, or somewhere there's a resonant frequency match, or I'm not saying you do, but let's say you feel like a victim because you keep feeling ill, and they feel like a victim because they died too young. They feel like if there's a resonant frequency match, they're going to come in. Now, the problem with soul loss and possessional energies is it becomes, if you survived a negative experience through soul loss and that was the way you coped with it, you'll do it again if you get another trauma, and again. And if a possessional energy sees that you're open to if another possessional energy can feel that there's gaps with possessional energies, another possessional energy will come in. So it's this kind of thing that gets it can become like a roller coaster. And then sometimes you get possessional energies that have possessional energies in them. So, and then on top of all of that, if you're empathic, empathy is tricky because we naturally want to, our natural state is that we want to connect. And then when you're empathic, you naturally reach out to people, or your heart is open. And if you're not sovereign because you've been traumatized or whatever, then that's also going to cause you to open yourself. And this realm, unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, is teaching us through a victim perpetrator construct, victim perpetrator rescuer construct, our own evolution. That's the construct that we seem to have chosen in order to ascend ourselves. So you've opened yourself up, if you're empathic, potentially to perpetrators. And this realm, because we're in that energetic construct, there's a lot of vampiric energy. We've got the archons who are running the elites, who are running the governments, who are running all the systems, that we feed, let's say, with our attention. We feed media with our attention. We feed government with our taxes. We feed the bank by putting our, we're feeding these kind of vampiric energies. And so we're in a kind of realm where there's a lot of siphoning of consciousness, and that's teaching us to be sovereign. So I think potentially there's a lot of things going on with you, and I think muscle testing has its place, but I can't muscle test anything in myself, and I'm just offering this to you. I cannot muscle test anything on my own body because I manipulate the result.
The bias.
And you may be manipulating your own result because of unconscious programs. And there's also a high possibility that you're manipulating your own result, because the truth is that you're a very powerful being. So I would be mindful of that. And I would also be mindful of becoming, and I'm not saying this is you, so please do not take this as a criticism. I'm putting this as an out there thing, that we can all get addicted to things that we think are helping us. So this goes back to the being addicted to putting up protection, or being addicted to meditation, or being addicted to anything. And I would offer you the idea that you could perhaps look at whether you're addicted to muscle testing yourself, because that could be weakening you. I'm not saying you are, and I'm not saying that you have got soul loss or that you have got possessions. I'm just offering these as ideas to you. But what I think you should do is contact a shamanic practitioner to help you and to check in, certainly with the soul loss and the depossession, because to me, I think there's a high chance that there's something like that going on for you, and you may find a big change if you can get to the bottom of it. I hope that's helpful.
Everything you're saying. Yes. Lots of tears, lots of heart resonance for what you're saying. And I think it's a special education that you're giving to the rest of us, because this isn't talked about enough. And I adore and appreciate your perspective. Thank you for your love.
Thank you so much. And I'm sending you lots of love, and thank you for the courage of sharing what's going on with you.
Oh, thank you. I'll be in touch for sure.
Kimmy?
Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. My question is, just a little different. How are the trees?
Oh, the trees on the land.
Yes.
We haven't started planting them on the land yet. We're just collecting the trees at the moment.
Okay.
So we have to wait for the farmer to, well, he's supposed to come and harvest the last crop, but there's no crop because it completely failed. But we can't start planting until he's given us the okay. But we started buying trees, and also my husband has filled our entire vegetable patch with saplings now that he's been collecting. But they all seem to be very happy and waiting for the next moment. So I appreciate your asking, and we're getting very excited. I think we're going to, I'm not sure when we're going to be planting them, but I think it will probably be December and January that we'll start planting them.
Okay. I obviously love the trees. And when this entire Zoom came up on the questions and answers, just the very first thing are, how are the trees?
Yeah, they're getting excited. And also what's really exciting is that in a corner of the land, something like 100 acacia trees have self-seeded because the crop failed. So they're already a meter high.
Wow.
So that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Kimmy. And if anybody didn't understand that question, it's because well, my husband's doing it really, but obviously I'm holding him. But we are rewilding a piece of land behind our house, and it's very exciting. Preet.
Hi, Sarita and everyone. So I posted my question originally in the chat, and I think
Oh,
that
sorry, I haven't seen it.
others before me, so I'm not sure if you want to take the questions that way, or should I ask my question?
No, ask away, seeing as you're here.
Okay.
If you're happy to do that.
Okay. So for me, I've been meditating on and off, so I guess inconsistently for a number of years now. And I notice whenever I do sit down, I feel a lot of energy at the base of my spine, and my torso begins to rotate in circles. So from what I've read and from what I understand, I think it's called Kundalini energy that's trying to rise up through my centers.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of fear that I have around that, though, which is probably the reason why it stays where it is and it's not fully risen. So my question is, how do I allow for this experience to unfold naturally and be comfortable with it and not be afraid of it whenever the time's right?
Yeah. Okay. So I would answer that. There are two things I would say to answer that. So I would say, go into your body, find the fear, and heal the fear. That's the first thing you need to do. You know, where is the fear coming from? What's holding it? Why have you got the fear in your body? Because fear is always going to be a block to our higher evolution. I mean, a lot of the work that we do here is working on fear, because really at the end of the day there's fear and love, and all of the other emotions are variants of those two. So I would recommend that you bring up the idea that you might get a Kundalini experience, and then go into your body and find where you're holding the fear, and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into that, and release the fear. The other thing you could do to assist you is to instruct your body to raise the Kundalini to the second energy center only. And then when you feel like it's raised to that center, then you can maybe go to the third. Remember, you're not a victim of this energy. You're not a victim of anything. You're the master of it. And it's the conscious awareness that you are the master of your own body, which will change the entire paradigm of how you're feeling and experiencing everything in your life, including the potential for Kundalini awakening. I've also, so the same way, what you could do is you could go into meditation and send an instruction to your first energy center, or all of the energy centers, telling your energy centers that you're only going to receive the Kundalini into your second energy center until you feel comfortable to move it on. Having said that, also something else has come up. I think I was taught a technique which is called earth sipping, and that is on my YouTube channel somewhere. It's on one of my first meditations, so you might have to go back a bit. And I think it's called sipping energy from the earth or something, I can't remember. But that's a feminine breathwork technique that allows you to very gently begin to work with Kundalini energy from the earth. And it's just less dynamic and less intense and less scary than, say, the dispenser method, which is a masculine form. And that dispenser method, I think, it comes from other traditions, and there's a lot of, forcing that energy up the spine and taking the Kundalini with it. And the earth sipping, which is a feminine breath, gently brings it up. So go into the fear, instruct your body how you'd like to receive it as the master of your own body, and perhaps try a feminine breath. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, that's beautiful. I guess my follow-up question to that is, maybe I'm getting into the weeds here, but how would I know once it has reached the second center, though? Like, how would I know?
Well, you've already said that you can feel this energy in the base of your spine.
So it would, okay. So I would feel it below my navel, that I suppose, right? Because that's where the...
it depends what energy center system that you're using, but yes, you should feel it in and around the second center.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because it spirals up the body, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you should feel it when it reaches that. Remember, so the energy center, the spine, and what you would say in the Eastern tradition was the pranic tube, run straight through the 0 point of the energy centers, and the Kundalini energy is going up that pranic tube. I call it the quantum core processor of your being. So it's going to affect the second center. You're going to feel it in that center.
Right.
Yeah.
And my other question is, this is more of a general question that I think would be a benefit to others as well. In addition to the videos that you have on your Patreon and your YouTube, are there any other additional resources that you could recommend that would be a benefit or that would aid, us in our spiritual journey? Like any books or any?
Oh, okay. Gosh. I think what I'll do is I'll have a think about that, and I'll put a list in the description box.
Sure, no worries.
Because that's going to be easier than me going, oh.
Yeah,
an hour.
putting you on the spot here.
But what I will say though is, although I've read a lot of spiritual books right at the beginning of my spiritual journey,
Yeah,
you know, and I do buy the odd book now,
yeah,
I have found on the whole that the best information has come
yeah,
from myself
yeah.
when I'm in an
Absolutely.
altered state. And often now, if I go, oh, that sounds interesting, I'll buy a book. I don't even, this is so unlike me because I used to be like a prolific reader when I was young. I mean, I probably spent the first 15 years of my life reading every single day from morning to whenever I could. I was just reading, and not just spiritual books, but just prolific reader. But as I've got more into this work, I really get the best information when I'm tapped into source consciousness. It really is extraordinary, and it's always verified by other people's work or books. So you don't
Yes,
actually read the book
right.
because there's the Akashic records.
Yeah,
We're all quantumly entangled, aren't we? So every book that's ever been written or ever will be written is available to you out there, you know. So
yeah.
I just wanted to offer that as well. But I will put a list below. I'll go and have a think about that in the description box when I put it on YouTube.
Yeah, and I was taking it from the lens that, like, for me, I feel that these days I've been receiving a lot of downloads. And when I do read spiritual texts, like a lot of times when I receive these downloads, it's more of a feeling. I'm not able to put it into words or really understand it intellectually. It's more of a feeling that I feel. And it feels like joy, it feels like bliss. And then a lot of times what I find is when I read something, it has a beautiful way of conveying it into words. So yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think words are very important, but I think we are moving into an era of feeling.
Yeah.
Where we may eventually let go of words more, or the
Right.
intellectualization, thank you, of spirituality. Because if we move into a fifth dimensional architecture, it's oneness. We won't have to define and box and limit ourselves by writing things down. I think we've needed to write things down, just like we've needed to have traditions and specific techniques to adhere to so that they could hold themselves and us through time until we got to this point. And what I think is happening at this point is the offering is to become so sovereign that you can take any technique and then add to it. You know, and become limitless and not constrained. So I think that there's that aspect as well. So I think you're right. If you're receiving the feeling and then the words are showing you on both levels, you know, what the feeling was. That's a beautiful thing. But yeah.
Thank you so much. Lots
Thank
of
you.
blessings and love to you and everyone else.
And to you. Okay. Let me just see who else is raising their hands. Okay, I'll do some questions in the chat now. Lindy's asked for the Successful Healing Coherence group. I will put that in the description as well when this goes up on YouTube. Okay, Joe has written, we live in polarity, a 3D world of contrast. Without the sick, there would be no one to heal. It's how we learn and evolve in this contrast. We are also in the flesh. Our physical is subject to deconstruction, disease. Be a healer. Yes, you're right. That's not really a question, but thank you. Okay. Let me see if there's a... Okay. Is someone else? Wait, one second. Someone said, do I ever feel waves of heat when I meditate? Yes, I do. And I also feel waves of ice cold as well. So that's quite interesting, plus loads of other things. But heat is quite common. Yeah. Let me just see if there are any other questions. Okay, someone said, my question is, what do you think why things are intensifying currently? Okay, so I'm assuming you mean on the world stage. So what I think is happening in very general terms is that our bodies and the planet is attempting to hold more light. Now, the reason we're holding more light is so that we can elevate our consciousness into a higher collective frequency. So on the scale of consciousness, and an amazing book, by the way, that everyone should read is David Hawkins' Map of Consciousness. So there we go, I remembered one. So in his Map of Consciousness, he talks about the levels of consciousness and frequency and density, basically. So I think what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to bring more light into our bodies and the body and the atmosphere of Gaia, so we can move into the higher frequency of unity consciousness out of the separation frequency that we're in now, which is the third dimensional polarity architecture. So a lot of things on this planet, in order to hold us in that density, remember, matter is made of light that has become dense. It's come from, it's light, frequency, and information that we've called forth, we've magnetized it towards us using our desires, and it becomes denser and denser until it forms into matter. Okay, and once we're in matter and we're held in these bodies, we can experience the contrast of density and light, of dark and light, of evil and light, evil and love, whatever you want to call it, and all of the levels of of contrast in between. So we're trying to bring more light so that as a whole we can elevate in our frequency. So we're trying to pull light into matter, which is very dense. And there are a lot of things in this density that are very, very dark and have trouble having light pulled into them. And I could name a lot of things. Obviously, there's the atoms of our bodies. Those are very dense. But then we've got dense emotions, we've got dense systems, dense ways of thinking. There's just so much happening on this planet that is rooted in density. And so what's happening is as more light is coming in, the density is kind of being shaken up. It's being shook by the energy. And if any of you have ever done breath work or had intense healing experiences, what will happen is you will have had blocks, energetic blocks in the body are basically dense patterns or crystallized formations that have got stuck. And when you do breath work into something like a crystallized pattern in you, what happens is it starts to get shaken up, and that's why people shake when they do breath work, and it starts to get loose. And as it starts to get loose, it starts to dissipate, starts to come into motion again, and it can move. And so what's happening is that the energy on this planet, which is being facilitated by all of your work, thank you so much, my work, and then things like solar flares and the work of Gaia, which we can't fully understand, and the work of all the stars and all the stuff that's going on, that's shaking up all the density in this planet. And it's like if you shake a rock enough against another rock, it's going to start fragmenting. And if you keep shaking it, it's going to fragment. So what's happening is all the density and all the dense ideas and the dense architecture and constructs and systems and ways of thinking and being on this planet and the materialism that we've been holding on to is being shaken up. It's almost like you've got a glass of water with silt at the bottom, and then you start to shake it and everything goes murky for a while, you know, and that's what we're in at the moment. It's like that density is being shaken up, and as it gets shaken up, it's just going to step into, it's going to become more motionful. It's going to start moving. So things are moving, and we're beginning to see all of the density in the world being shaken up and shaken out. And simultaneously, we're going to be feeling that in our bodies, because our bodies are going to start kind of resonating with any density that we're holding within us as that's all being shaken up. And remember, your reality, your universe is a reflection of everything that you think and feel. All of the chaos and intensity that we're seeing on the planet is coming from you. All of you. That's why it's so important for us to look at our own density. It's important that we acknowledge our own stuckness, our own evil, our own controller, our own sabotager, our own perpetrator, our own victim. Because when we acknowledge that we have all of those things inside us, we then see them more clearly outside of us, and then we can go inside us and heal it, and then it gets automatically healed on the outside, and more light starts to come into everything. So that's why we're seeing this intensity, and it's because there is this movement of light workers, or whatever you want to call us, who are not willing to live like this anymore. We've obviously been reincarnated enough times, or we've come from other planets or whatever, but there's this kind of movement and motion to turn within. Obviously, it's been going on for millennia, but it seems that it's getting more intense for us who are doing the light work, and more intense for everyone on the planet, because we can't separate ourselves from everything that's happening around us, because we're in fact creating it. We're co-creating it together. And so we're shaking everything up, because now it's time to let it all go. So that's what's happening, and that's why we're seeing the intensification. It's because more light is coming in, and more light cannot be held in static density. It needs to be in luminous motion. And remember that humans, this is the other thing, we're waves and we're particles. That's why we're so amazing. We're material and we're stellar. So we can have it all, but we're coming out of an epoch of where we were convinced that we were just material, and that we'd been plonked into this reality, and we were victims of where we arrived into. We completely just abdicated the idea that we were spiritual beings, but now that's coming back in. And we're realizing that we're spiritual beings having a material existence, not material beings solely. So I hope that's answered that question. There's now 8 new messages. Can I recommend a good breathwork method? I love earth sipping. That's the breathwork method I do a lot. Another good breathwork method, I think, is Osho chakra breathing. I just think that's amazing. Go and look it up. You can find that one on Spotify for free. And he does this open mouth breath into all of his energy centers. It's absolutely extraordinary. So that's something that I could recommend quite easily. Let me see if there are any other questions. Nicole, are you saying you've got another question, or are you waving goodbye? I don't know. Goodbye? Oh, you've got a question.
Yeah, I have a quick question. It's actually one, I think, in the chat. And just in terms of, so I completely agree, walking around protecting yourself all the time, it just doesn't work. I actually had a bad experience with that. So what do you recommend? Or is there just nothing?
I recommend the energetic octahedron, and I recommend feeling into the edges of your own biofield and making them gold. So I think that's the best thing. I mean, really, the recommendation is to know yourself so that you know what is yours and what is not yours. I was talking about this with someone else the other day. So I'll give an example. I very rarely catch a cold. Now, first of all, you can't catch a virus, let me say. But what can happen is if someone else has a cold, so in other words, their body is expressing exomes because they're ridding themselves of a toxin, what can happen is your biofield will read that and decide to express exomes, you know, through your mucus or your skin or a cough or whatever. So now this is happening unconsciously because there's been a program on our planet that you catch a cold. So even if you meet someone who isn't yet sneezing and coughing, your biofield and your unconscious awareness will know that they're beginning to eliminate a toxin. And you may both start eliminating toxins simultaneously. It's a survival technique because if there's a toxin floating around, you need to get rid of it. Now, what happens with me these days, and what's been happening to me for a long time now, really, quite a few years, is when someone comes into my field, I can feel the toxin, if there's a toxin, or if they're eliminating, when it hits the edge of my biofield. So it doesn't hit my body yet, it hits the edge, and I start going, I can feel something coming. Now, if I can feel something coming, there's usually two things I do. One is I will do a meditation and you know, remove consent for any bacteria or entities or anything that's potentially toxic to come into my biofield. I'll set that up. I'll remove consent if there's stuff floating around. And the other thing I'll do is take a vitamin C or something, you know, whatever, depending what I'm feeling into. So and that's well before any kind of symptom has appeared. And so I rarely get those kind of illnesses. The only times I've got or caught things from people is when I've hit a period in my life, usually through stress, where I've become very unconscious for a day. Or I went out and I took a few drinks and then went to sleep. This is why I just don't drink anymore, because it's just always has a bad ending. So because alcohol makes you unconscious. It dulls you and it numbs you down, and it makes you oblivious to your own energetic frequency. So really the best sovereign protection is to know yourself fundamentally and to spend time every day feeling into your body and feeling how your energy field is. So, but you can turn your energy field gold, your biofield gold. And I'm not saying that it's not. Sometimes it is important to protect yourself. I am not saying that at all. I'm saying don't get habituated with it till it weakens you. So if, for example, I know I'm working with someone who's got an entity and I'm helping to compassionately remove that entity, I will put protection around myself because I'm going to be concentrating on them and I need to know that I'm all good in my energy field. So, or let's say I've had a really vulnerable day and I have to go to a party. Maybe then I'll put protection around myself, you know, if I'm feeling a bit low and vulnerable or a bit weak or something. So it's not that you shouldn't do it. There are times when it's necessary, or you meet someone who's clearly a psychopath or something, you may want to put protection around yourself. or you meet a demon, you know, in another realm. There are always times where it's helpful. It's just not good to be habituated to anything, because the moment you become habituated to anything, you are not living in the present moment, and you have abdicated yourself as the creator of your own reality, because you can only create, truly create, from the unknown. I hope that's helped.
Yes, thank you so much.
I went off on one of it.
That was perfect. It was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, great. Nanu, I've got that you've raised your hand. Is that? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, and I was typing the question. I wondered what type of acacias are they? Mimosas? Are they the one with the yellow flower that are fragrant?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't understand the question.
You mentioned mimosas growing on the property, volunteers.
Acacia trees.
Acacias, yeah. Are they mimosas? Are they the one with the white flower, the yellow flower, super fragrant? You don't know.
I can't remember, because everything's bare and empty at the moment.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, sorry, I can't remember.
It's okay. The other thing, it's not really a question, but as I'm meditating and as I'm becoming, you know, I guess, I don't know what, I'm not going to put a word on it. I find a level of separation with people, like people who are not like on that path, and it's becoming bothersome, like almost isolating. And also I feel like there's a part of me that's wondering if it's the ego judging, because I'm having a lot of reactions of, I guess, impatience or intolerance inside of me for what seems to be petty stuff. Petty stuff
coming from other people.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's normal. I think that's everyone I've ever spoken to, myself included, goes through this point on the path of self-initiation where they feel lonely and they feel like they're surrounded by unconscious people, or rather people who are not ready to elevate in their consciousness. I think it's important to be mindful of the fact that everybody is actually elevating, because evolution is something that is unstoppable. Okay. What I would say is, what's happening to is you're being triggered by their unconsciousness. And so they're offering you a healing tool to elevate your consciousness further. And you'll know you're really getting there when you stop being irritated by unconscious people and you allow people to be whoever they want to be and do whatever they want to do, even if it feels sabotaging or uncomfortable for you. And the path of sovereignty is really when you can be surrounded by people like this and you feel completely neutral. And even harsh words that come to you, just you're good with them. And if you can get to that point and you can respond with presence to someone who is being unconscious, what you actually do is you give them the permission to come and match your resonant frequency. And the thing is that what I found from talking to, I don't know, probably thousands of people now, is that it seems that the light workers are all dotted around the planet, surrounded by unconscious people for a reason. It's because what I've seen in my own meditations is that we've literally created a new matrix. It's like a light web, and all of the light workers, or the people who are becoming more conscious more quickly, let's say, are at the cross points. It's like we're holding the web and our feet are absolutely meshed into the earth and our heads are rooted into the cosmos. And we've built this new structure, which looks gold to me as well. And it's and people are gravitating towards it out of the the inverted what I call the inverted matrix or the dark matrix, and they're gravitating towards this amazing web that we're all building. And so really every judgment that you have and every irritation that you have, and believe me, we've all had them and we still have them, and it's all a gift. And the minute you can start working with your triggers, you'll start thanking these people, because every time you hit a trigger, you're going up a notch. And then you're going to become both irresistible and irritating to the people around you who are unconscious. That's what's going to happen.
It's more irritating. It's more
at
irritating.
The moment, you're more irritating.
I used to be there for them, and now it's like I'm just, I don't want to get absorbed by like negativity or like energy sucking, but also it's like the communication, the language is not there anymore. It's like we're talking different languages. Yeah. Okay, so just be present and give thanks for the lesson.
Yeah, exactly. But also you are kind of on different realities, because for sure there has been some kind of split in the timelines, which is a very complicated subject, because there are gazillions of timelines actually, and there's gazillions, infinite versions of you and infinite versions of everyone else. But what I'll say to you is this. Imagine that the person who's just irritated, someone's just come into your field and they've irritated you, okay? You are seeing the version of them that is a resonant frequency match to your judgment, okay? Or your ability to be irritated, okay? There's a resonant frequency somewhere in you that's in your shadow that you haven't seen, which is why it's triggered you. If you heal the trigger and can respond with presence rather than react, in the next moment, you'll see the version of them on a different timeline that matches the new version of you on your timeline. And so if you keep doing that, eventually everyone around you will become elevated in their consciousness, and you'll have an easier life.
That's magic. Thank you.
It is magic. That's why it's exciting.
It's beautiful. So we are absolute creators of our realities.
That is absolutely true.
Thank you so much, Sarita, for all this wisdom, your light, your smile, everything. Looking forward to meeting you next year. I'm coming to a yoga retreat.
Oh, wonderful. Yay. Great. Well, I think your words are the perfect words to finish this Q&A on, which is, you said we are the absolute creators of our reality. I think that's a perfect way to end this. So, yeah, we've been at it nearly 2 hours. So thank you all so much for coming. I will do another public Q&A session soon, because everybody turned up, which is lovely. I wasn't sure what would happen. So I'll put this up on YouTube in the next few days. I deeply appreciate your presence and all of your questions, which have been very heart and mind opening. And I wish you all a lovely rest of your evening. And thank you so much for being here. Lots of love.
Love and light.